Hey, podcast friends. This is Dr. Steve Hewlett with the podcast Simple Healthy Choices for Weight Loss, where every week we help people who have realized that as their health has been declining over the years, the number of medications they are being prescribed is increasing. We want to help you reverse this health path so you can live the vibrant, pain-free, and hopefully medication-free life you deserve to live. If you'd like even more information on this topic, you can go to Amazon or Audible and pick up my book, Your Plate is Your Fate. And if you think my book helps you on your new health path, please tell your friends and leave a review where you purchased it. Hey, welcome back, podcast friends. And today, this is Dr. Steve Hewlett, and this is my wife, Theresa Hewlett. And we are going to do a different little podcast today because in all the podcasts we've been doing over the last year, we've been talking about how important what you eat is, and how some foods can make you extremely healthy, and how some foods can make you extremely toxic. And so today, what we want to do is we want to change things up, and we want to actually start telling you how to set goals to make yourself more healthy. And these kind of go along the line of any way that you make goals, this is going to be your first step. So we decided a good thing we do is just kind of give you some good first steps on how to set a weight loss goal. And this is going to be especially important through the holiday season, since we're coming up on the holidays. So to start this one off, I'm going to let my wife explain to you why we decided on this today.
Yeah. So I was listening to a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and it had an interview with Jon Acuff, and he's written like 9 books, but his latest book is called All It Takes Is a Goal. And I thought, okay, I think I could use this. So I went, ordered it and listened to it, or I would show a copy of it, but we got it on Audible. So I was telling Steve how good it is. So we both listened to this book, and it has just some really easy things, and it definitely changed the way we think about our goals. And we thought it would help you guys to get started, because like this very first podcast, we're probably going to do another one expanding more on this. But first, we want to do some easy goals, some goals that you have some wins and you feel successful and want to continue.
And this is really important because we are very goal oriented. I get extremely anxious when I don't have a goal, because I don't have a way to assess whether I'm improving my life or I'm making my life worse. I need goals to keep me on track. And even though we've been doing goals for decades, every time we hear something on goals, I tend to learn just a little bit different. And that's what was so cool about this, because when I read this book, which I actually didn't read it, we listened to it on Audible, but it's still the same book. And there were some things that I knew about, learned about, thought about a long time ago, and I kind of quit, and now I want to start back up again. And some things that I'd never heard before, and a different way of saying them. So that's what we want to do this. We want to kind of give you a way to start getting healthy, staying healthy throughout the holiday season. Mm-hmm. And really what we're wanting you to do, if you would like to do this, because people in general, people tend to gain anywhere from 5 to 20 pounds every year. And most of that weight increases during the holiday season, because that's when you have your Thanksgiving, you have Christmas, you have New Year's, and there's parties constantly and all this horrible food everywhere that people think tastes good. But if you've been listening to my podcast, you realize that this is the stuff that's toxic. So we just want to tell you a little bit about what we learned about goals, and hopefully this can help you get started on being healthy throughout the holiday season. So the first thing is, why set goals? What's the purpose of a goal? There are a lot of people who have no idea what our goals are. They actually have goals, they just don't realize it. But basically goals, I look at goals as this is just a way to enjoy life. I mean, think about things that you really want to do and then set out to do them. And there's different ways that you can do that depending on how big the goal is. But when you do this, when you set a goal and then you achieve it, that makes you enjoy life, and it builds up your whole self-esteem, and it gives you a purpose in life. That's the whole purpose, is trying to find out, what is your purpose in life? What is it that you think you were put here on earth to do? But you'll figure that out later. That's not part of what this initial step is, because that gets overwhelming. And the whole thing is, we don't want you to be overwhelmed. So the other thing that having goals do is, when you do this, you can be an example to yourself and to others of what's possible. Because you're going to find that if you set a goal, and especially if it's a big goal that other people can see, everybody's going to want to know how you did it, what'd you do. And so this is going to be your chance to actually affect other people differently also. And what you may find out is that you may actually find that there are some friends who don't want you to achieve goals. And these are the ones who tend to be negative all the time. They're always cutting other people down, talking behind people's backs, saying that, oh, there's no way you're going to be able to do that. These are the kinds of friends that you're going to start analyzing through this process of, are these the kind of friends you really want to stay around? And if you do, you might want to minimize the amount of time that you're around them.
And another thing you want to think about, you hear those people that talk about people that they talk to at the end of their life. And one of the things you don't want to do, not even necessarily end of your life, even like right now in your life, you don't want to be like, oh, I should have done this. I should have done that. So you're shitting all over yourself. And was that somebody we heard?
Yeah, that was Tony. That's from Tony Robbins.
Okay, yeah.
And I love that term, because that's exactly what people do. They should all over themselves, like she said. I should have done this, I should have done that. And when you set goals, that's what you're doing, is you're trying to think of these things in advance. And we're going to have a whole goal series later, but that's the purpose, is set your goals in advance and then go for them. So when you're at the end of life, you're not saying, I should have done this and I should have done that. And one thing you're going to find at the end of your life, because there was another book, and I don't remember where we read it, but this guy, he actually went around and he interviewed a bunch of people that were at the end of their life. And he said the amazing thing is that nobody at the end of their life said things like, man, I sure do wish I worked more. Or, man, I sure do wish I watched more television.
Or the biggest one, especially in our time, would be spent more time on social media. Because, Andrew, we spend a lot of time on social media. I know I do.
Yeah, I don't. But we don't want you doing that. So what we want you to do is think about your values at the beginning. And again, this isn't in this podcast, but this is where we want to go as we start teaching people how to go through goals, in the future. But we want you to enjoy life. We want you to get through life and say, yes, this is what was important to me, and I did something towards that every single day. And the fact is, it is much, much, much harder to set and achieve goals now than it was even 20 years ago. And that's because of all the distraction technology that's out there. There are so many things out there that want to distract you. They want to have you focus on their stuff all the time. And we've already mentioned some of it, like Netflix, Amazon, social media. I mean, these are all things
they don't want you leaving their sites.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, even dating apps. Dating apps do not want you to find the love of your life and get married and have a long, enjoyable life. They would much rather you have 100 different dates that don't go anywhere because you keep coming back to their sites. And that's the same thing with any of this social media, Facebook and all these people, they don't care what you're doing out there. They just care that you're on their site. Food companies do not care if you are healthy. They just want you to be continuously hungry so you continue to eat their food. So if that makes you unhealthy, that's your fault. You shouldn't have eaten their food. That's the way they look at it. Drug companies. How many drugs would be on the market if everybody was healthy? Drug companies don't want you healthy. That's how they make your money, is you keeping yourself sick and you keep going back to the doctor and getting more drugs. If you want to make health one of your goals, you have to do this on your own or with someone like us that can help you go through this. But don't be looking on social media or anything like that. Unless you find something on social media that sparks you into coming up with a new goal. It's like, that's a good goal I'd like to have. But otherwise, when you're doing any of these other distractions, and it's very easy to do, you're going to have to be very aware that you've got a goal. And so it's going to make you get off those other distractions a lot quicker than you normally would.
And it's hard because those things are so easy. It's like sitting in front of Netflix and watching a series for 4 or 5 hours in a night, getting to bed too late. So now you've messed up a goal, possibly the next day. You wanted to get up early to work out. Maybe you wanted to prep your meals for the next day or journal. So those are just totally gone because watching Netflix with that series that was so fascinating, it was just so easy just to keep on Netflix and keep watching it.
Right. And that's the deal. And that's why, and we'll talk about it in just a little bit, but that's why when you do set your goals, you've got to start by setting very, very easy goals. Things are very easy for you to do so you don't get distracted, because nobody gets distracted from social media. Nobody gets distracted from Netflix. You always get distracted from a goal, and you go to those other technologies. And the harder your goal, the way more distractions you're going to have. That's what you're going to find. And that's just the way life is. And so one of the very first things, it's not so much what you do as far as what goal you do. It's whatever means something to you. But the big question is why you have that goal and how you're going to achieve that goal. And a good example, and I've mentioned this in a past podcast, but about a guy, and I don't remember who I heard this from, and it may have been Tony Robbins, but there was a guy who wanted to lose weight, tried everything he could to lose weight. Nothing worked. He tried every diet. He tried everything. And he just figured out he just must be big boned, or he must have a genetic defect, or he must have thyroid problems, or, he had all these other excuses, even though he knew the real reason. However, he then found out that his daughter had renal failure, a kidney failure, and she needed a kidney. And come to find out, after they checked everybody in the family, they found out that he was a perfect match. But since his weight was so heavy, he was not going to be able to give his kidney to his daughter. That was his why. And once he found his why, surprisingly enough, his weight came off. He was able to get his weight off. He was able to give his kidney to his daughter, and his daughter did live. And that is why you do something is going to be extremely important for you to really delve deep. Don't think about why someone else thinks you should do something. This has nothing to do with anybody but you. And this is just for you to enjoy life and to get through with your life and feel happy about what you did. Feel pleased, have a high self-esteem, be happy with yourself that you're doing these.
But that's really that's a rare situation, So most of us, we don't have that going on in our lives. We just need to come up with a why we want to do this big goal. And one of the things that John talked about in his book that I thought was a really good visual was he talked about a ladder, and he goes, the bottom rung is where we are right now. And then the top of the ladder is where we want to be. So let's say the bottom of the rung is 200 pounds. Top of the rung is 130. And we look at it and we get up to the ladder and we're like, okay, so how do we get up to that top ladder? Do I jump? What do I need to do to get up there? Because we want it immediately. We're just in a society now, we get everything immediately.
So most people look at their goals like it's a ladder with two rungs. You've got the very first one where you're going to start, and then you have the one way up there at the top, and that's a success. Like everybody looks at that top rung, and people who are on the top rung thinking, look, they're so successful. I want to be like that. And they want it immediately. They don't even realize that everybody they're looking at the top of that rung, they have many, many, many rungs in between there on their ladder that they climbed. You just didn't see it. So that's what you've got to do. You're not trying to climb a ladder, jumping from the first rung to the very top. You've got to decide what are the rungs that you want and make these very small, very easy,
very doable.
Very doable. Mm-hmm. Yes, because you just got to start moving.
So one of the other things he talks about is the comfort zone, which is not a good place to be.
That's the bottom of the ladder. Right, when you're in the comfort zone, you're on the lowest rung.
Yeah, so you don't want to be in your comfort zone. So it's like he talks about tricking our brains. It's like, how can we trick our brains that we're okay with leaving the comfort zone? And then that's where he talks about all these little bitty steps you're going to take.
Except before that, what the comfort zone is. Comfort zone is really, you have no real focus on your future. You don't really have a goal. You don't really know where you want to be. It's like, I don't know. I just wake up and see where the wind blows me. You tend to settle for the familiar. You just feel comfortable. It's like, oh, I know this place. I know that person. You feel very comfortable where you are. It tends to be safe. It tends to be very repetitive. You do the same thing over and over and over again. And it makes it where you're stuck and you don't even realize it. And then it makes like this risk of stretching for more just sounds so overwhelming because you like it safe. You like no actions, no goals, no progress. But that doesn't last very long. And this, one example of this is like kids who go through college. And as they're going through college, their graduating college was their long-term goal. That's all they wanted to do. They worked and worked and worked. They got into college. They partied. They had friends. They studied. They had all this great time. no thought about what they're going to do after they graduate. But what happened? They graduated. And now they're sitting there thinking, I guess I should have thought about this earlier. Now what do I want to do? And so they end up having a graduate degree from a big college, and they're waiting tables. Nothing wrong with waiting tables if that's what you want to do. But if that's not what you want to do, and you just find yourself doing that because now that's easy, even though you have a college degree, your self-esteem is going to be very low. I mean, it's going to happen. And so again, that's what we don't want you to do. We don't want you to wait till the end and then think, oh, I should have, like we had already said. So the main thing is finding your why, finding your purpose. And that's where, Theresa was getting ready to go, is when you have these goals. Remember what you're going to say?
No.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, don't remember at all.
But basically, what we want you to do is find a goal. And this is any goal, but for our podcast, what we'd like for you to do, if you would enjoy doing this, is we found that, like we said, most people gain most of their weight through the holidays. And that's usually 5 to 20 pounds a year in most people. Some people more, some people less, obviously. But in general, that's about. And so what we would like to do is have you set a goal of not gaining any weight. We're not worried about you losing weight. Don't worry about losing weight through the holidays, but don't gain any weight during the holidays. And so the way you could do this is make very, very easy and obtainable goals. That's what we want you to do. Because if you make these goals that are really, really hard, and then you don't achieve your goal, well, that's easy because you couldn't do this. You make these rules up on what you want to do to make your goal, and you make your rules so hard, you don't achieve it. So now when you don't achieve it, you can just blame your rules instead of blaming yourself. So don't do that. Make easy rules.
Well, then also you have now your self-esteem or your self-confidence is going down. It's like, so then you get to a point where you're just like, I don't even know why I even bother. I haven't done it in the past. Why can I do it now? And so that's where you can absolutely do it. But that's where these easy goals are going to totally change the way you've done things in the past.
And that's called self-talk. And we all have self-talk. We all tell our stories. Oh, I can't do this. Oh, I don't have enough time. Oh, I don't have money. Oh, I don't blah, 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 blah. Whatever. We all have these stories. And what we want you to do is we want you to change your story. We want you to get a focus for yourself. And there's another thing that we love. It's called, this by Jim Rohn. And Jim Rohn talks about when you set a goal, at first, it really doesn't matter what you're doing. It's like getting in a sailboat and you want to sail over to, say, the Virgin Islands or whatever. So you get in your sailboat, and if you just get in a boat and there's no wind, your boat's not going to go anywhere. You can't do anything. You have to get moving. And once you get moving, now you can start course correct. And as the winds come to you from one way or the other, you can course correct and you get right back on track again. But the main thing is you've got to get moving. And you have to change your self-talk. So instead of saying things like, man, I'm not good at this, you just change it to say, oh, I'm new at this. And that one little change is so easy, because when you say, I'm not good at this, you just badmouth yourself. And whether you know it or not, your brain heard that and it's going to believe it. But if you say, I'm new at this, now that makes your brain feel more excited. It's like, oh yeah, I'm new at this, so I'm learning more things.
Right.
So you don't get upset with yourself.
Yeah. And I think another thing is to realize that when you do these small goals, it's going to take time. And that was one of the examples, I believe he said in the book, about learning a new lesson or I'm not a lesson, a new language, and said, if you were to tell somebody you wanted to learn Russian in a weekend, they'd be like, are you crazy? No, you can't. And that's what we want to do with our health. Well, I want to get totally healthy in a week, and it's like, well, that's crazy. You can't do that, especially if you have years and years and years of a sedentary lifestyle, eating the sad diet and, all that stuff. So it's just going to take some time.
Right. And so with these easy goals, an easy goal are the very first goals that you're making. It's the first few rungs of your ladder is what these are. And to make an easy goal, you want to do one that doesn't take very much time, like less than 2 hours a week. I mean, this should not take any time at all. And you want this to be, if you tell somebody what your goal is, they're going to look at you and say, is that all? And that's exactly what you want. Because a lot of times if you set this big goal and somebody looks at you and says, oh, is that all? Well, that starts making you feel bad and think, oh, well, gosh, maybe, or whatever, maybe I should set my goal higher. But if you know that this is not your long-term goal, you're just putting rungs in your ladder. So you want this to be very simple, If you tell somebody, they're going to think that's not that big a deal. It'll only take a couple hours a week. It's not expensive. Like free would be great. There's no reason to spend money on these little simple, easy goals. And so what we want to do, and you want to talk about the slight edge?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So another book that we read, this is about all it takes is a goal by John, but another book we read this years ago called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And one of the things he talks about is it's easy to do, and it's also easy not to do. And so it goes back to, I don't think I brought it up yet, probably just when we were talking about this earlier, but talking about, we did a podcast when we were talking a few months ago about another book we had read where, working on your balance and some flexibility, and you're going to be doing some things while you're doing other things. Although they're easy to do, they're also easy not to do because you're not going to be flexible in a day. You're not going to be, if you've been lifting weights if you lifted weights that day, you're not going to be buff that day. So they're also easy not to do because you can't see these things. And so that was a really good example that he said it's easy to do, and then they're also very easy not to do.
So like she was saying, is like something that's easy to do. You could get out and just go with this. Say you get out and you decide that you're going to walk a mile every day, or you, instead of walking a mile, you're going to go have a quarter pounder with cheese every day. Okay. If you walk a mile that day, like Theresa was saying, are you going to be buff? Are you going to be all fit and healthy now? Well, of course you're not. There's not going to be anything. What if you don't walk and you choose to go have whatever, Big Mac, whatever I said, and you go eat that instead? Is that going to make you unhealthy right then? Well, of course not. But if you walk that mile every single day for, say, 3 months, or you choose not to walk that mile and you choose to eat a quarter pounder with cheese every single day for 3 months, now you're going to see the difference. Because the one who walks the mile, they're going to feel better about themselves. They're going to be more healthy. And chances are they're going to start making more health goals after that because they feel so good. However, if you're the one that decided to eat the quarter pounder with cheese every single day, you are going to be worse, and you're going to feel worse about yourself, and you're going to start hanging around people who feel that way, and you're all going to comfort each other and how horrible life is. And hopefully that's not you. That's not the kind of person you want to be. So make little bitty changes that you're not going to see them, every single day, but over time you will see a huge difference.
Right. Because the time's going to pass anyway.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's going to come and go whether you're
it just goes
doing
back to
something or
the
not.
shooting all over yourself. Just think, if I just would have done this last year, I should have started last year, So that's why you're going to start today.
So what we want you to do, just kind of put the rubber to the road here. We were thinking about some very, very easy goals that you could have right now that will help you get through this holiday season so you don't gain that 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35 pounds that tends to happen over this time period. So these are 4 very, very easy goals. They shouldn't take you hardly any time at all. But the first one, if you could make a goal of drinking no sugar sweetened beverages over the holidays from Thanksgiving to New Year's, just no sugar sweetened beverages. So these are the 4: no sugar sweetened beverages, increase your water intake. And as you see, those 2 goals really kind of go together. So anytime you start to reach for a sugar sweetened beverage, go for water instead, or unsweet tea or unsweet coffee, anything like this, nothing with sugar, and preferably nothing with a sugar substitute unless you absolutely have to. But, since this is a first rung, if you want to use that, that's fine. If that keeps you from drinking all the other crud, that's fine. We also want you to increase your activity, whatever that means to you. If you have no activity going on right now, then walk. Just get out and walk every day, twice a week, 3 times a week, whatever you want to do.
Or even just say you're going to walk 5 minutes after supper.
Right.
And that's it. Just 5 minutes.
And then we also want you to do just a little bit of meal planning. And the way we want you to do this is make a game out of it. And this is what you're going to do with all your lower rung, your easy. Well, actually, you're going to do this with all your goals. Make a game out of it. Make this fun. So if you're talking about having no sugar sweetened beverages, increase water intake, increasing your activity, even if that means just walking, and meal planning, do something where you can chart that. Maybe make a chart. You can do it with on a chart. You can do it on your phone. You can do it with notes, calendar, notebook.
Journal.
Yeah, journal, whatever you like to do. Make a little chart and keep track every single day and say, and all you have to do is make an X. You're not counting water, you haven't amount of ounces, anything. All you're doing is you'll just make a check on that day saying, I didn't have any sugar sweetened beverages today. And I drank. Now in your water, you could write down the number of ounces that you drank. And remember, on your water, the number of ounces that you should be drinking for maintenance is your ideal body weight, not how much you weigh now, but how much you should be weighing. What is your ideal body weight? Divide that by 2. And that's the number of ounces that you should be drinking every single day. So make that your goal. And then each day you can just write how many ounces did you make? Or if you don't want to do that, you could just make an X saying, yes, I met my requirement for the day, or don't put an X if you didn't. Same thing with walking. Make your little chart and walk. Say you get out and you only walk 1 block. That's great. Write down 1 block. And then maybe next week you'll walk 2 blocks. It doesn't matter. Just write it down, because if you chart it, the best way to progress in something is to write it down, make a chart, and track that. You really need to track it in order to improve. And you need to know what your starting amount is. So know what you're going to start with, know where you want to go, and make up a quick little chart or game, any kind of game you want to make this fun and just chart your progress. And again, you don't want this to be expensive, but if you quit spending money on sugar sweetened beverages and you drink water, that's free. You actually just saved money because water's free. So we don't want this being expensive. Same thing with your activity. Walking is free. You don't have to go join a gym. People get so wrapped up in, I got to buy the equipment. I got to go find which gym I want to be. I have to go and I have to get signed up for the thing. Then I have to pay my monthly fee and yada, yada, yada. And they make so many rules. They talk themselves out of it before they ever begin. Just like everybody knows that January 1 is when everybody makes their New Year's goals. And almost everybody is off of those goals by February 1st. They just make too big of plans, and we don't want you doing that. Just little bitty things that all you really need to do. And the biggest question that you want to ask yourself is when? When do you want to start this? Because I said Thanksgiving, but I didn't mean Thanksgiving. I mean, you could start this like immediately. This weekend, the first thing you want to do is just write down your goals. Figure out how do you want to chart these goals and make it fun. You could put a chart up on your bedroom wall and color code it, or whatever your body does, however your brain works. But make it fun. See if you can go all through the holidays with no sugar sweetened beverages, increase water intake, increase your activity, and also planning your meals. This is one that we'll talk about more, but if you could plan your meals every day, plan out what you want to eat the very next day, and then stick to that plan. And that's going to help keep you on track for these other things as well when you start going through the goal process that we want to start sending people through. But you have to plan it. Plan your meal. If you can plan on, once a week, plan what you're going to eat that whole week. Go to the grocery store, make sure that you have all the ingredients already in the house for the things that you want to have for that week. And then each day, plan what you're going to eat the next day, because, things change. Each week things can change. So it's kind of hard to make a plan once a week and stick to it the whole week because of meetings and everything else that comes up. So meal plan once a week, and then plan what you're going to eat the next day. Do that the night before. And then
you want to reward yourself.
Yes.
Rewarding yourself. So we were thinking, because since we're wanting, you to lose weight, we figured that's why you are here listening to this podcast, is because you want to lose some weight, possibly, or keep the weight off. And so one way that people tend to treat themselves or reward themselves is with food. And so since your goal is to lose weight and to get healthy, we'd rather you not use food as one of your rewards for doing such a good job. But you can. There's nothing wrong with that. Right. But, our goal is trying to get your mind where you're not thinking about food all the time. Right. And so, just some examples. So a lot of things I'm in some Facebook groups and I was looking at because a lot of people ask it. It's like, what is a reward that's not food? And most of these things do require money. So like maybe getting a new workout outfit or going to the spa, or you could just take a bubble bath.
Get a massage, buy a new golf club, buy some flowers,
right.
jewelry, whatever.
There's so many things. You could go for a hike. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there's so many different kinds of rewards you could do. Don't take money, but then some do. And I'm sure, if you've been saving all your money from your sugar sweetened beverages,
that's right.
Now you can possibly afford to spend some money.
Yeah. And you could actually track that. Every time you thought you're going to be buying the sugar sweetened beverages, instead pull out your notebook and write down how much that would have cost. And then add that up from now until January 1st also. That may even show you something. So make it fun, make it easy, make your rules simple, but start doing something. And the reward, that's actually a goal too. Make a reward something that you really would love to do. You've just never set time to do it, and make this the time. Now I'm going to do it because I'm going to do it on January 1 because I'm going to reward myself from doing so good throughout the holidays. And now you just actually wiped out another goal. So I hope that made sense to everybody. I know this has gotten a little bit longer than I usually do, but setting goals is so important. And we are actually planning on putting together an entire program of helping people get healthy. And this will definitely be part of the program that we're putting together is goal setting, how to set goals, how to set achievable goals that you can really, really do very easily. And it's the little bits at a time. That's what's going to make it. Just like the turtle and the hare. Everybody knows the story of the turtle and the hare. And that's why the turtle ran, or that's why the turtle won, because the rabbit was just so crazy. The hare, he's running. He thought he had all this time, spending a lot of time sleeping and everything. And while he's sleeping, the tortoise, who just little bitty steps, but continuously, he's the one who won the race. That's what we want to be. Yeah, don't give up. And that's the other thing. If you fall off, who cares? It's only you. It doesn't matter. If you fall off, get right back again. Everybody, 100%, even if you're talking about Tony Robbins, everybody, especially most successful people who set goals constantly, they don't reach all their goals, when they want to. Things happen. Life happens. That's life. Good things, bad things, whatever. So don't beat yourself up over it. Just say, well, that was too bad, but now I'm getting back on track again. And so that's our podcast for today.
Yep,
you got anything else, sweetheart?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. That's our podcast for today. And we hope you enjoyed it. And we hope this helps some people. And keep following, because we will have follow-up goal podcasts coming soon. And then we are planning on having our program come in January 1st. So we'll let you know when we're closer to launching that as well. So for right now, we want to thank you so much again for listening, and have a great week. And remember, make simple, healthy choices to live a quality life. If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the subscribe button below, and be sure to tell someone else who may want to change their health path as well. And don't forget, you can also purchase my book, Your Plate is Your Fate, on Amazon or Audible. And if you do, please leave a review.